Hi, everybody. Meteorologist Joe Cioffi. It's weather in 5 days in 5 minutes on this beautiful Sunday that we're going to enjoy here in many areas in the Northeast down into the northern mid-Atlantic. Let me just remind you very quickly to make sure that you've downloaded the latest version of my weather app, either on Google Play or on the App Store. We were waiting for an app store update, and it finally came about a week or so ago. But the new versions will default to your location, and also there is a tab for Long Island. So we made those changes, but the default to the location is really the important thing. And on the iPhone, the location seems to default also for the Zoom radar. We're working to make that fix for the Android side, but nonetheless, the app is much more functional, and you'll always have access to my weather, even at times when access might be denied on other platforms. And we'll just leave it at that. Okay, so let's get to it. And as far as our weather today is concerned, we've got a beauty. As we said, temperatures are going to be in the upper 70s to around 80 degrees. We are going to probably have sunshine all day long, and in some places it'll be wall-to-wall sunshine. There really isn't much going on from the standpoint of weather. Rosh Hashanah begins tonight, so in tradition, the weather's always nice for the Jewish high holy days, and a very happy, blessed, and holy New Year to all my Jewish friends that are observing Rosh Hashanah, and then down in about 10 days or so, Yom Kippur. So we are going to have no problems today. We have no issues coming up actually for the first half of this week. The core of this high building down from the north will be here for Monday. So looks like it's taking longer for it to come in and longer for it to go out, a little longer for it to go out. So highs Monday will be actually cooler than today. Highs will only be in the upper 60s and lower 70s over most of the area. And then we'll start a warm up on Tuesday. We'll be in the 70s to some lower 80s, southern Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey, and middle 80s as you get down into northeastern Virginia and Maryland. Wednesday will be the one really hot, humid day this week. I'm going to call it hot, with temperatures that are going to be approaching 90 degrees in some spots, particularly in the hot spots of New Jersey, from there, southeastern Pennsylvania, south central Pennsylvania into Maryland and northeastern Virginia. Go from New York City north and east, we're talking middle to upper 80s. But again, this is the one day this week because we are going to be seeing a pattern change, and then we're going to cool off after that. A couple of things going on this morning on the national radar. Just want to point out that the raging snowstorm out in the Northern Rockies continues, and the radars are very busy up in this particular area. Unfortunately, I don't have the live camera this morning. From the Glacier City Co-op in northern Montana. I can tell you from what I can make out from the camera, it is still snowing very hard there, and my guess is that there's at least a foot or a foot and a half of snow on the ground. Otherwise, today, it's really about, we're going to start to see a weather pattern change getting underway. You've got your storm out to the west, and you still have this ridge that is going to be building in the eastern part of the United States. But we have mechanisms that are in play now that are going to change the weather pattern significantly across the Northern Hemisphere, not just over us, but all across the Atlantic and Europe and Asia. And all of this is actually going to be triggered by Hurricane Lorenzo, which last night, for a short time, became a Category 5 hurricane. The Hurricane Center was carrying winds of 160 miles an hour, and you can see how well developed the eye was at the beginning of this loop, but not so much toward the end. It's hard for storms when they reach Category 5 intensity. They don't hold on to it for too long. Sometimes for a day, day and a half, maybe 2 days, and that's it. In this case, For Lorenzo, it's probably just more of a matter of hours. But the important thing about Lorenzo is that it is going to start to change things in the upper atmosphere. Let's go through what we're going to have to deal with here this week. So we've got our high in the east here. Weather's going to be nice through Monday. Tuesday, we're going to start to see those winds turn more west-southwesterly, so that starts the warm-up, and there might be a bit of a warm front that will have to pass through here Wednesday afternoon and evening with some clouds. You can see there's some showers that go by north of New York City through upstate New York and New England. And then this is going to be the one day, Wednesday, where we're going to see our temperatures climb up toward the 90-degree mark. There is a cold front here that is going to be moving on through for Wednesday night into Thursday. It settles barely to our south, but then there's a more important secondary front and wave here that comes through, and maybe for Thursday of this week might be the one shot that we have for some widespread shower activity if this plays right. But behind this, when the low goes out and heads to the east of Nova Scotia and beyond and intensifies, it's going to bring down some very, very cool air out of Canada with this next high for this next weekend. So at this time next weekend, we could be sitting in some rather chilly air for this time of year, coming down as a result of a strengthening system out in the Atlantic. And let me just show you really quick before we end it here what's going on in terms of the whole upper air. And when I refer to Lorenzo being a bit of a trigger mechanism, having trouble here. It's a Sunday morning. You try to get things going. But watch what happens here on the GFS. You're going to see Lorenzo's, this wrapped up low out here. We're looking at the upper air from last night. You've got this ridge here in the eastern part of the United States. You're kind of on the edge of the jet stream. This is, we've been sitting much of the last few months in this sort of situation. Lorenzo gets pulled northward. Now you've got this strengthening upper low that's going to develop between Newfoundland and the southern tip of Greenland. And that is going to be picking up Lorenzo and turning it to the north-northeast and accelerating it. It makes a very close pass to the Azores sometime later Tuesday or Tuesday night. This is where we start to see some big differences in the models. From here, Lorenzo will either get ejected out to the northeast toward perhaps Ireland and England and Scotland and France, or it will be whipped around this upper low here, and it gets just kind of does this big rotation. Either way, I think it's the outcome for us is going to be pretty much the same. Lorenzo on the overnight GFS was lifted up and around where it goes northwestward and actually passes the southern tip of Greenland. But what it does for us is that it strengthens this whole feature here in eastern Canada. The ridge in the east is gone, and as a result, we see much cooler air. And not just, by the way, in that one instance, but it is going to hold this pattern kind of firm. So we're going to see these troughs coming through here on a semi-regular basis that will be bringing shots of cooler air as each one goes by. So bottom line is we're talking about autumn weather solidly setting in and as we get into the month of October, and pretty much doing it right on schedule in terms of the calendar. Met Ariane in Ireland has announced that they are watching the situation with Lorenzo very closely, and I believe they should. The European is one of the models that is actually kicking it more to the northeast rather than rotating it around. So if that's the case, it would perhaps be a threat down the road late this week for Ireland and perhaps even for England and Scotland in some form, either with some sort of remnant tropical form, or perhaps it makes a complete transition over into a post-tropical system. So weather in 5 turned out to be weather in 9, but it happens like that sometimes. Have a great Sunday, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We're going to attempt a live stream tonight on my YouTube channel. I know I did promise it the last couple of nights, but sometimes things do get in the way of the weekend, and I wasn't able to do it. But we're going to at least make an attempt at it later on today or into this evening. We'll see what the football games do and how the Giants do today. I don't even know who the Jets are playing or if they're in a bye week already. These weeks seem to go so quickly. All right, have a great Sunday and a great week ahead. And again, happy High Holy Days to my Jewish friends celebrating Rosh Hashanah and observing Yom Kippur in about 10 days.